Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm Stavroula Khatzipanagiotti. I'm working for SRW in the COIPU research project. And today my colleague Sarah and I will be taking a high-level look at the AI Act, which is a significant regulation that's sure to be on topic of discussion for a long time. Sarah, would you like to shortly introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. Bonjour, everyone. My name is Sarah Hamou. I'm working as compliance officer at Scope Europe Monitoring, and I'm delighted to be here today to discuss the European Union's AI Act.
So today, our goal is to familiarize you with the key concepts of the AI Act, and while we won't dive too deeply into every session, every detail, by the end of the session, we hope that you will have a solid understanding of the core principles behind the AI Act. And since the majority of you are coming from a COIPU project, we hope that you will understand how the AI Act impacts development and research of AI systems, and what you should keep in mind as people involved in research projects. Our session will we'll start with a little bit of a background. It will cover the definition of AI systems. We will see how AI systems are classified, who the key players are, as well as their obligations, and then we will jump to research and open source projects. And if there is time left, we will discuss a little bit about the self and co-regulation toolkit, which is provided under the AI Act. We will see how it is why it is important that we take into consideration the AI Act provisions, meaning what sanctions there are foreseen, and we will have a look into the enforcement dates and some AI governance aspects. And with that, let's get started.
Thank you. And as you can see here, there are a lot of regulation, and it's not exhaustive digital framework in the European Union covering different thematic. And what has been lacking so far is a coordinated, coherent overall concept for consistent digital data and now AI laws in the European Union. This should be now has been addressed with the AI Act, and the AI Act in the European Union is the first of its kind worldwide, making the EU a pioneer on AI regulation. And on a national level, Germany is among the first countries to have developed a national AI strategy. The AI Act entered into force this summer. You probably already know that, and it's the first world comprehensive regulatory framework on AI. The Commission plans an AI pact because we will see that there is a timeline for the enforcement of the AI Act, and the AI pact aims to encourage AI developers to voluntarily implement key obligation of the AI Act before they are officially into full effect. Yes, you can see the framework. The AI Act does not operate in isolation. It's a part of a puzzle. It integrates into a broader framework on EU digital laws. This includes data protection, such as the GDPR, as well as security and copyright laws. The AI Act was established to create legal environment for the development, commercialization, and the use of artificial intelligence within the European Union. And the framework aims to as well ensure AI technology and innovation in the European Union, and also to align with the core values of the EU, like such as the protection of human rights. So it must be clarified that the AI Act is not a full framework for AI, for artificial intelligence. It does not cover liability. It does not include automate decision making. It does not regulate on data protection or on intellectual property rights. And it's kind of a AI product safety law with additional provisions. The goals of the AI Act are to promote the use of human-centric and trustworthy artificial intelligence and to ensure protection of health, safety, and European fundamental rights, as well to foster innovation. And yes, to have in the EU framework on artificial intelligence, so to protect the European citizens against potential human rights violation, and to have transparency on AI system and in the internal market. If yes, you can see now the framework, maybe we'll come to that later. So we can move to the next slide, to the AI definition. Yes.
Yes, so when we talk about an AI system, what exactly are we talking about? The AI Act adopts a pretty broad definition in order to cover various technologies and methods. And in accordance with Article 3, the AI system must be machine-based. It must be designed in such a way to operate with varying levels of autonomy. And it must have the ability to infer how to generate outputs from specific inputs so as to make decisions that can influence physical or natural environments. And it also must exhibit an adaptiveness after employment in a sense that it must be able to have an impact. So as mentioned, it's a very broad definition, and the regulation clearly intends to exclude traditional software systems that do not meet the criteria that I just described in a cumulative manner. And it's also intended to be narrower in scope than the concept of automated decision-making we have, for example, under the GDPR, which focuses on decisions that are made by automated means, so without human intervention. But for example, there is no account for inference, which here is a requirement. And it's also very important to bear in mind that an AI system is not the same under the AI Act. It's not the same as an AI model. The AI model is not defined in the AI Act, whereby the general purpose AI model is defined, and Sarah will tell you more about it in a bit. But it's important to distinguish those two, because the law clarifies that models are essential components of AI systems, but they are not themselves systems. So as such, models they are critical. They are a critical part of the technical infrastructure that is required for an AI system to function. But there are additional components required, such as user interface and IP to generate the outputs. So the AI model must be integrated in some kind of software, hardware components, and so the users have the ability to use an interface or a dialog box to submit a prompt. So there's a difference between the model and the system. With that being said, we can jump to the next slide, where Sarah will tell you more about the system classification.
Yes, and as you can see, the AI Act classifies AI system based on their risk level. And based on this risk level, the AI Act prescribes specific requirements depending on the classification. We have the prohibited AI system. They represent an acceptable risk, so they are forbidden under the AI Act and banned. An example for prohibited AI system is social scoring, because evaluating humans based on a behavior or a characteristic to derive consequences on that behavior or characteristic, like rewards or punishment, is a violation of the European fundamental rights, and it represents, of course, a real danger. So this practice is prohibited in the European Union, and as well small manipulation of an AI system that manipulate the human behavior without transparency or awareness are also banned in the European Union. After that, we have then the high-risk AI system. They are subjected to strict technical and documentation requirements, including assessment of AI impact and on fundamental rights, and the conformity on the assessment. An example would be, for example, the medical diagnosis systems. To have a system that analyzes medical data to provide diagnosis necessitate a high accuracy and a level of safety that has to be guaranteed. So the AI system classified under the high risk level have to meet strict standards, like risk management and data quality. After the high risk level, we have what probably most of the provider will use, the low risk this AI system. They are subjected to transparency obligations. An example for that will be then the chatbots or virtual assistant. They must be transparent. For example, they must be labeled as an AI system if it cannot be recognized for an user that it's that they are speaking with an AI, and for example, other recognition system. After that, we have the minimal or no risk AI system. They are generally not subjected to specific regulatory requirements. An example for that will be, for example, spam filters or AI-powered video games. Here we are in the gaming experience. So if an AI system adapts itself up to the difficulty of the players and generate a play upon the characteristic of the gaming of the players, or generate then specific content, it's a minimal risk. So that's classification of the AI system. Another example for the high risk are the autonomous vehicles, because here there are no human intervention required. So of course we have to guarantee then safety measures and continuous monitoring of that. So this structured approach ensure that the requirements measure are proportional to the potential risk posed by the different types of AI system. And if we move to the next slide, we can see the key players under the AI Act. So the primary subject of the main requirements for AI system and AI models under the AI Act are the provider, and the AI Act assigns specific obligations to the different key players involved in the development, distribution, and use of AI system. and it's important to understand which role the different key players play to ensure then compliance and to as well promote the responsible use of AI technologies. So if we speak about the provider, the providers are individuals or organizations that developed an AI system or have developed and place it in, not develop it, but place it into the market on their own name or brand. So that's the providers. It's regardless if they are in the EU or outside the EU. They if they have a product that could be used by EU citizens, they have to meet special obligations, and they have the most obligations. So it's compliance before deployment to be sure that the AI system comply with the AI Act before the European citizens will use it, risk management and documentation to keep record and monitor then the use of the AI system, to have compliance check, ensure transparency and other safety measures. And another important key players under the AI Act are the developer. So developers are entities that decide to place the AI system into operation in the European Union, and they can integrate or configure specific applications or operational techniques according to the use they want to have of the AI system. So they might not have developed the AI system themselves, but they are responsible for its deployment and proper functioning. They also have compliance obligations and have to do as well risk assessment and as well implement reporting structure. And just to maybe the last one key players that we can mention here, the distributors. So as the name say, the distributors make the AI system available, so they distribute it in the European Union with no consequent modification on the AI system, and they have due diligence obligations, and they also have to cooperate with authorities if the authorities wants to have then information or documentations. Maybe we can just move to the next slide to see the overview, of the obligation. I just mentioned them. And you can see that all of them have transparency obligation. And if we move to the next slide, we can see an example of all the obligations that providers have if they use a high-risk AI system. So understanding the role that each one are playing, plus in which classification system your AI system is, guarantees then the compliance under the AI Act and or the responsibilities you have then the different parties have, and it's to the goal again is to ensure then transparency in the market and promote trust in AI use. So I will not go into the details of these obligations. You see there are a lot of obligations for providers who are using high-risk AI system. And what's just maybe it's important is to know that, for example, the data must be relevant For the specific task, the data must be sufficiently representative to ensure reliability and fairness across the various contexts, and accuracy has to be guaranteed. So the data must be as error-free as possible to minimize inaccuracy and prevent biased AI decision or analyze. Yes, and if there are questions, we can then answer then after about that. So I pass the word to you, Stavi.
Yes, so I will then use a little bit of our time to talk about what the AI Act leaves out of scope. First, there are exemptions regarding research and development. So we will see that AI systems or models that are used merely for scientific research and development purposes are excluded by the scope of the regulation. And there are also exemptions regarding open source systems and models, but these are subject to various conditions. We will have a look into them in the coming slides. Also, out of scope remain AI systems that are developed or deployed for purposes that pertain to military or defense or national security aspects. And they are regulated in different legal acts. And also out of scope remain AI systems that are supposed to be used purely personal, so for non-professional activities. I will then jump into the research slide. So as said, the AI regulation leaves out of scope systems models that are to be used only for research purposes. However, there is a time limitation. So this exemption is only applicable only as long as the AI system is not put into operation or is not placed into the market. Which means that once we have a product out of it, the AI system model is subject into all the requirements of the AI Act. This is why it is very important, everything that Sarah has until now explained to us, because as of that moment, the AI requirements are applicable. Of course, during the research time, ethics, ethical professional principles have to be taken into consideration. And also, depending on each case, there can be applicable union or national law that also has to be taken into consideration. But maybe what is important to take out of this slide for people working, for example, in Koipu or other research projects, is that since the exemption only applies for the time within the research frame, it is very important to make a comprehensive documentation of the training data used for the model from the very beginning, from the get-go. And also, it is very important to to take into consideration the requirements for the test data. So everything has to be very properly documented from the very beginning, taking into consideration requirements that are applicable once we have a product. This much to the research area, and from there I will jump into the open source subject. And I would now like to focus a little bit on open source AI systems and models and how they are treated under the AI Act. So the regulation aims to promote transparency and innovation. and therefore exempts open source AI from its scope of applicability generally. However, it is important to note that while open source AI has certain exemptions, these are subject to very specific conditions and exclusions, which means that not all open source AI is free from regulatory oversight. The regulation recognizes that potential open source development can also address it has opportunities, but it can also address risks that can arise from these systems, especially when they arise from prohibited or high risk scenarios. So first of all, we need to we need to distinguish between AI systems and GPIA models, or general purpose AI models, which are large language models, etc., because that's what the law does. Let's begin with the AI systems. It's important to look at 3 questions that you need to answer when you are evaluating whether an open source AI system might still fall under regulatory requirements. The first question is, does my AI system fall under prohibited uses, such as social scoring? Certain uses, like social scoring, they are strictly prohibited under the AI Act, as we have seen, and any AI system, whether it is open source or whether it's proprietary, it must comply with these prohibitions. In case you answer negatively to this question, you proceed with the next one, which is the AI system classified as a high-risk system? So open source systems might still be classified as high risk if they are used in sensitive areas, as we saw, for example, healthcare, law enforcement, and education. So if a system is high risk, it must meet all the stringent requirements that we touched upon in the earlier slides, regardless of whether it is open source or not. And at the end, the third question is, must the AI system meet the transparency requirements which are foreseen under Article 50? So maybe, first of all, to explain what the transparency requirements under Article 50 are. This article introduces transparency obligations for certain AI systems. So if an open source AI system falls under this category, the developer and the deployer, both of them, they must disclose certain information about the system. For example, what is the intended purpose or how it functions. And the AI system with such transparency requirements, they pertain to AI systems which run transparency risks. So these are systems that interact directly with natural persons and generate synthetic audio, video, text content. So it is important that when they constitute deep fakes and they generate, manipulate images. So it is important that these transparency requirements are met. So the natural person, the user, is always informed that he or she interacts with a non-human, let's say. Exactly. So if one of these 3 questions is positively answered, exemptions do not apply, and we still fall under the scope of the regulation. This much regarding the AI systems. I hope I could explain it somehow understandably. I would then jump into the GPIA models to say 1 or 2 words on this regard. So the AI Act foresees that in order for an GPIA model to be excluded from the scope of application, the model has to be open source licensed. It has to be freely usable, meaning you should not have to pay for it. And the information on parameters must be publicly available to anybody. And also, the model should not be one of those that Sarah explained earlier, one of those posing systemic risks. Sorry, we have a question here. Will you share the slides? Yes, we will. Sorry, it's just bumped. So yes, we will do. Continuing then on the slide, exactly. In case the AI model is posing systemic risks to safety, health, or fundamental rights, we fall again under the scope of the regulation. And one last note on that, it is very important to remember that even when the exemptions apply, so even when the GPIA model is out of AI Act scope, it is still important that you develop and adhere to a strategy regarding the copyright protection, and that you publish a detailed summary of all the training data used to train the model. Now, I cannot really say much more on these 2 points because these points are actually content of brainstorming and discussions going on right now within the establishment of codes of practices that the AI office, the Commission, the EU Commission, and many stakeholders are now discussing and are now developing. So it remains really to be seen how this will be made, what will be the specific requirements, and how such a policy should be developed for the providers. Exactly. And then I would like also to briefly explain one thing regarding the open source. So as we said, regarding the GPIAs, they must be publicly accessible. However, the parameters of the GPIA models, if we read the AI regulation, it talks about weights, it talks about information about the model architecture and the usage. And this implies that the obligations for GPIA models are more extensive compared to the open source AI systems. And for example, the law itself doesn't require the algorithm or the data to be necessarily publicly made accessible. And this actually creates some kind of confusion with regard to what has to be now made public or not. And it creates this issue of partially open AI, which then is a phenomenon named as open source washing. The issue refers to companies that promote AI technologies as open source, while they are only sharing parts of their system. So there might be often key elements like certain models or data that are withheld. And this creates the appearance of transparency and openness, but it truly limits the collaboration, the accountability within the community, and it's used as a marketing tactic. Yes, currently what is considered open source for AI is not always truly open source, and there have been, for example, I'm sure you know that better than I, calls that claims that Meta, for example, says that its large language model Llama is open source, but many claim that it is not because important information is withheld. And this is also an example that other LLM providers follow. That much to the open source subject. And maybe Sarah then wants to briefly also say some things regarding the sanctions.
Just one sentence. if you do not comply under the AI Act, there are sanctions that have been foreseen, and financial sanctions. And here we come again back to the AI classification system and which role you play. And upon to that, the sanction will be then defined, and here you have the maximal amount that can be of the fines that can be given. That's on it. We can go into the self and co-regulations.
Yes, but yeah, maybe just on this point, basically, we really wanted to include this slide because it kind of justifies the whole webinar and all the slides. This is the reason why you should really be careful and compliant with the requirements, because the sanctions can be really, really, really high. I will keep this one relating to self and co-regulation matters kind of short. However, I would like to briefly touch upon some points, also to explain why this is so important for the work that SRW does within the co and self-regulation ecosystem. So the AI Act introduces a self and co-regulatory toolkit, which includes codes of conduct for AI systems in general, as well as codes of practice, which address GPIA models specifically. And given that provisions regarding GPIA models are effective as of August 25, so next year, as I said, the AI office and many stakeholders currently brainstorm on the development of such codes of practice, and they should be ready, I think, around May. This is a very hot topic right now. The AI Act also refers to standardization and alternative adequate means as tools of self and co-regulation, specifically when addressing, or not specifically, but mainly when addressing the GPIA models. SRW follows the idea that since alternative adequate means in the AI regulation are not per se defined, codes of conduct could also fall under this category and could also be used supplementary for regulating. This can go a lot into detail, and I think it's not so relevant maybe for today. But it is very important because for the first time we see that the legal act really reflects on what scale, on the scale that the added value of co-regulatory measures can offer to market participants. So yeah, it's quite important. And following up on that, maybe some aspects regarding to the monitoring part.
Yes, and here I have the word. So maybe you noticed there is no mention of a monitoring body in the AI Act. Therefore, there is no requirement for monitoring bodies to check the compliance of the code of conducts by their adherents. So what could be the implication of the absence of a monitoring body? Well, without a monitoring body overseeing or having a large view on how the adherence of the code of conduct implements the requirements of the code of conduct, there might be inconsistencies in compliance because there is no centralized and neutral body or an entity that might interpret that might see how the different entities are implementing the code of conduct. So it means that it might be interpreted differently, and so it could lead to inconsistencies and or a non-uniform compliance. So the code of conduct, if everyone is doing it differently, in the different organizations. So it could be a challenge, and yes, it might that the entities have to self-regulate them and see maybe how the other entities are also self-regulating themselves. And for the enforcement, it also means that it relies on self-regulations by the entities themselves. So it could be not always be effective. So means some challenges, and why, which are the reasons for the absence of a monitoring body in the AI Act. It's an open question. I do not have the answer to that questions. We just know that there is simply no mention of a monitoring body. So it was not an intentional omission of a non-obligation of a monitoring body. It just represents a divergence in the regulatory strategies if we compare with the GDPR, which explicitly requires a monitoring bodies for code of conduct. So it means, that there is maybe a push through for more self-regulations. But it also means that through these self-regulations, the owners of the code of conduct can voluntarily choose to implement their monitoring bodies to oversee compliance with the code of conduct. So it's maybe, yes, a push to self-regulatory practices. And maybe then we can discuss it if we want after, but now going to the key enforcement date of the AI Act, as we said at the beginning, there are different enforcement date. I don't know, Stevie, if you want to take the word.
Where I think time's a little bit short. So what I would just say regarding this slide is that the regulation adopts a phased implementation. So you would have to take a more detailed look into it according to what you may be working on. But it starts with the scope and the prohibited AI systems as of February, and then it gradually comes into effect until 2030 with obligations regarding certain AI systems. And exactly. And then on a final note, so regarding the AI governance under this act, there's, along with other bodies, many of which are newly established on the EU level, we also have the AI office, which ensures consistent application across the EU. It was not completely from scratch built, the AI office. It was part of the EU Commission. And we see that regarding the governance, there are different entities on EU level and on national level foreseen, and it remains to be seen now how the interplay between them will take place. It's a very, very big discussion, and we will be very happy to discuss this more in a following webinar. That's about it, and I see we have 1 minute remaining, and maybe the 1 minute could be now used for you to type any questions you have, or to use the microphone directly and ask anything you want, and we will try to clarify things that may not be clear. If not,
yes, maybe if you're still typing the question, then can just say, well, in summary, that's the introduction on what are the requirements under the AI Act and what it represent between balancing innovation and the protection of fundamental rights, and that the AI Act defined the roles, responsibility, and the AI and have an AI system classification. There might be one question. I heard a microphone.
No, that was me. Okay,
Sorry.
I think there is no questions. So in this case, if you want, you can reach out bilaterally to us. I think you all have our contact details. And yeah, it was very fun talking about the AI Act a little bit. And yeah, as said, feel free to reach out on a bilateral basis. And with that, I think we can say goodbye for today.